Tanse, good afternoon. I'm Chris Sanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The Carney government's controversial Bill C-5 legislation entered a second reading in the Senate on Wednesday afternoon. One part of the bill aims to fast-track economic projects deemed to be in the national interest by running the approval process through one office and reducing the timeline to do this from 5 to 2 years. But Indigenous groups complain the bill was drafted without proper consultation and has moved through Parliament too quickly. Hassan Youssef is an Ontario senator and sponsor of the government bill. He says no major project will move forward without proper Indigenous consultation.
Major project in the national interest will only proceed after Indigenous voice are heard in true partnership. The rights of Indigenous people are not a footnote, but a foundation. Section 35 rights are enshrined in our Constitution, and the government has committed to stand firmly behind them.
An activist from the Bolsalo First Nation in Ontario is calling on provincial MPP Jill Dunlop and her federal counterpart, Conservative MP Adam Chambers, to honor and respect Indigenous rights and sovereignty or resign. It comes as both Ontario and the feds are about to pass legislation for more natural resource development, a direct response to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff threats against Canada. Johnny Hawks says he was recently arrested and charged by the OPP for causing a disturbance at an event in Midland. Hawks says he was peacefully protesting against Ontario's Bill 5 and MPP Dunlop's decision to support it at the event. Hawks says the bill will give industry permission to contaminate more First Nation land and cause more environmental harms against First Nations people. Hawk has since created 2 petitions calling for Dunlop and Chambers' removal if the bills pass and Indigenous sovereignty is not respected. Hawk says he is also frustrated with the politicians for sharing what he calls a photo op on National Indigenous Peoples Day with Rama First Nation Chief Ted Williams and Council, when the bills Dunlop and Chambers have said yes to threaten Indigenous rights and sovereignty.
Our so-called First Nation leaders are not speaking hard enough, so we need to kind of question the whole legitimacy of Canada itself and the provinces that have a legal title in our territories at first. Our leaderships are not speaking hard enough because we need to give them a history lesson. So within this petition, I'm bringing forth the whole history of so-called Canada with their acts and how they breached some of these statutes.
A number of chiefs in Saskatchewan, along with the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations, is speaking out this week and calling for more transparency over the RCMP's decision to remove RCMP Assistant Commissioner Rhonda Blackmore from F Division RCMP in Saskatchewan. Blackmore was removed from her job on June 3rd after a number of anonymous complaints were made against her. The FSIN says Blackmore's removal raises deep concerns, and a number of the chiefs say they stand in support of Blackmore, adding that she has demonstrated exceptional leadership and played a key role in the RCMP's response to the tragic events on James Smith Cree Nation in 2022. The FSIN also says Blackmore spearheaded an aggressive provincial Indigenous recruitment strategy that addressed systemic barriers to ensuring the RCMP reflects the communities it serves. The FSIN says the RCMP's decision undermines public confidence, and they also allege internal corruption within the highest levels of the RCMP. In a statement, PAGC Grand Chief Brian Hardlott said Rhonda showed strong leadership during a time of crisis for James Smith. She, along with her team, worked hard to develop trust through her compassion and understanding of the importance of that tragedy. In a statement, BATC spokesperson Neil Sasakamu said, Blackmore was removed from her post with no consultation with our nations. It seems like whenever we have a positive relationship with an RCMP officer, they are moved. In this case, the circumstances appear questionable. The chief's key demands include an immediate reinstatement of Blackmore until a full, transparent, and external investigation can be conducted. They want an immediate creation of independent oversight for disciplinary action within the RCMP with a clear criteria for handling anonymous complaints that is used correctly and not for personal gain, and a formal commitment to protecting officers who strive for positive change and justice. We reached out to the RCMP earlier this morning for comment, but did not hear back. The Weekly News elected Metis Nation Saskatchewan leadership was sworn into their positions. However, some duly elected officials did not get the chance to attend the ceremony. APTN video journalist Rachel May was at the ceremony and has the details.
We now have to begin to be able to engage with each other.
Metis Nation Saskatchewan President Glenn McCallum began his third term after re-election in May. At his swearing-in on Tuesday, he highlighted his priorities of land rights, the Métis Treaty, and partnering with the University of Saskatchewan on research led by Métis scholars. McCallum says the next 4 years will be busy for the nation.
So for me, we just continue doing things that we're doing right now. And like I said, education, economic development, health, and the list goes on.
Not all elected members attended the ceremony, as 3 provincial Métis Council positions, Vice President, Treasurer, and Eastern Region 2, were not sworn in due to pending judicial recounts. 2 elected officials, Wendy Gervais and Sherry McLennan, attended but weren't allowed in the room, stating they were told to stay home. When asked, McCallum acknowledged tension behind the scenes at MNS.
And the 2 that are not here are things that we have to, that's in-house stuff that are going on with our government. It happens everywhere.
McCallum says a process is underway to determine when Gervais and McLennan will join the rest of the provincial Métis Council. He did not detail the issues, citing confidentiality, but both women have spoken about the situation. Gervais says she, McLennan, and 2 others filed a harassment complaint against a Métis Nation staff member after an incident at a council meeting earlier this year. She says MNS investigated and then barred her and McLennan from council meetings until they apologized to the staff member.
And I have no problem apologizing when I make a mistake. I don't think Sherry does either. However, we're very well aware that we have done nothing wrong.
Gervais added that neither she nor McLennan are resigning, and while not everyone needs to get along, they must work together for the betterment of MNS.
It's called responsible governance, and so are we practicing responsible governance when we lock out elected people? Again, we may not like each other, and I'm not saying everyone has to like me or love me, but I was elected in through a duly elected process.
McLennan says that being escorted out of the swearing-in ceremony reminds her of an iconic Métis leader.
I will fight, just like Louis Riel, till my death, to provide governance and to provide the best for my citizens.
She added that the stress from the recent election led to hospitalization, and the uncertainty about her role nearly cost her her life. But she remains dedicated to making MNS prosper.
Here, because we're fighting for Louis. This happened to him too. He was locked out, and he was not able to go to the table. We are fighting for our citizens, and we are fighting for the Métis Nation.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
The Alberta Serious Incident Response Team is investigating after Alberta RCMP shot a man in Ermineskin First Nation, located 90 kilometers south of Edmonton. Last Tuesday at around 2:28 p.m., Musquechee's RCMP were called to a home in Ermineskin First Nation. When RCMP arrived, they found a 36-year-old man with what was believed to be a firearm, and RCMP say the man then confronted the officers. The incident resulted in one officer discharging their firearm. RCMP then provided life-saving first aid to the man. Paramedics and a Stars Air ambulance were then called. The man was airlifted to a hospital in Edmonton, and ACERT immediately began their investigation. ACERT continues its investigation this week. The late Métis elder Sophie McDougall from Saskatchewan was recently honored with a Canada Post stamp. We'll have that story after the break. Plus, APTN Sarah Connors gives us a sneak peek on what she's working on for your evening newscast.
I'm Sarah Connors, and I'm here at the Council of Yukon First Nations 45th Annual General Assembly, where the organization has elected its new Grand Chief. Coming up later on APTN National News, I'll tell you all about the new Grand Chief and what they hope to accomplish.
Welcome back. Naguset is well known in Montreal for her contributions to Indigenous people experiencing homelessness, and in particular, Indigenous women. Due to her work, she was nominated for the King Charles III Coronation Medal. However, she is choosing to decline the award. As APTN's Savannah Craig reports, Naguset explains why she can't accept it.
King Charles is the oppressor. So how do you take an award from an oppressor? I don't know how to. So I would prefer not to.
Naguset has been the executive director of the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal for more than 20 years. She's also the founder of Resilience Montreal, a center to support homeless people near Cabot Square in downtown Montreal. Due to her contributions to the Indigenous community, she has been nominated for the King Charles III Coronation Medal.
There's so much harm that has happened because of the crown. And we are still struggling. And it makes no sense to receive an award.
Naguset says this award also contradicts the Permanent People's Tribunal she's hosting next year. It will investigate human rights violations related to missing children and unmarked graves at residential schools, seeking accountability from both the Canadian government and the Crown's roles in the residential school system.
The PPT is going to happen in May of 2026. So it would feel very strange to serve him with an indictment and then take an award. No, I can't do it. I can't.
Naguset says she was nominated by Senator Michelle Odette.
It was for me also a way to remind the king that no matter what happened, we are still standing. We are still taking those space, and we are strong.
The senator told APTN News she respects Naguset's decision to decline the medal.
And my colleagues got the award, and I was like, well, when you go, can you ask him for our land back? Because that's what we want. What I would prefer is to, have more action from the Crown to mend all the harms they've done.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
The legacy of a Michif language keeper is being remembered through a new Canadian Post stamp. Born in St. Louis, Saskatchewan, the late Sophie McDougall spent a lifetime sharing the Métis language and culture with generations of learners in the province. CTV's Jasmine Pelche tells us more about the stamp itself and the woman it represents.
A Métis elder and Michif language keeper from Saskatchewan is being commemorated with a Canada Post stamp.
She kept us all together. She taught us so many things. It's hard to believe that she's being honored today, but she's well deserved of it. She worked hard all her life.
Sophie McDougall, who passed away in 2023, was a teacher from St. Louis, dedicating her life to sharing her knowledge of cultures and language with others.
I worked alongside with my mom translating books and stuff, so I know how to speak it. I understand it, but I don't speak it as well as she did.
McDougall was an elder with the Prince Albert Métis Women's Association for 20 years and translated books and written materials into Michif while engaging in other projects to preserve the language, which is endangered.
Working with Sophie was such an honor. She took immense pride in these books, which were beautifully illustrated by local youth, and she was proud to share them with young people throughout Prince Albert and beyond.
The stamp was issued June 20th, along with 2 other stamps honoring Indigenous leaders.
These honorees are widely loved, respected, and admired in their communities across the country. The Metis National Council selected Sophie for the latest stamp, and Canada Post is honored to tell her story.
We all agree she was a woman of strength, she was a woman of wisdom, and she was a woman to be remembered. Her legacy lives on through her family, and her contributions to our language preservation will continue to inspire future generations.
For Indigenous Circle, I'm Jasmine Pelche.
We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, how concerned are you about microplastics in the environment? Your answers are a lot, somewhat, or not at all. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to have your say. Coming up next, we'll take you to a recent fashion show in Muscapine First Nation in Saskatchewan that was all for the youth. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. St. John's 12, Charlottetown 16. Anujoak 5 and sun, Nain 6 and partly cloudy. 16 in Saguenay, Quebec City 15 and partly cloudy. 18 in Ottawa and sun, North Bay showers there and 14. Wawa 21, Thunder Bay 21. The Paw 21, God's Lake 19 and partly cloudy. 22 in Princess Harbor, Dauphin 21. 21 in Saskatoon, Regina 20. 18 in La Ronge and sun, Buffalo Narrows 17. Sunny in Peace River at 25, Fort McMurray 26. 27 in Medicine Hat, Calgary 22 and sun. Showers in Vancouver at 17, Bella Coola 16 and showers. Rain in Smithers at 19, Prince George 20 and showers. Sunny in Whitehorse at 18, Watson Lake partly cloudy and 20. 24 in Trout Lake, Yellowknife 23 and sun. Sax Harbor 11 in sun, Polituck 19 in rain. Chesterfield 15 in sun, Whale Cove 13. And Arctic Bay +9, Aglulik +14. Body positivity and building confidence was the purpose of a youth fashion show recently hosted by the Muscapine First Nation. Indigenous fashion and art designers took part, providing outfits as well as the makeup and hair needed for those participating. CTV's Mick Favo reports.
The youth at Muscapine First Nation strutting their stuff for friends and family. It was an idea formulated by the nation, fashion meets cultural expression, celebrating Indigenous designers and giving local kids, teens, and young adults an unforgettable experience.
It is so important to have this kind of community engagement in First Nations because it builds a lot of confidence and it creates a space for us in the industry, and it's just nice to be engaging with the community.
All of the outfits worn were provided by designers from Western Canada. For a final touch, the local models had their hair and makeup done by professional beauty experts.
For me, I'd rather take this over some New York City show, some Paris show. It's all about, for me, community and helping my people to heal and rise up and take our place in society. We're not invisible anymore. We're here and we're rising to the occasion.
Tracy George Hayes has been designing traditional and contemporary First Nations clothing for over 20 years.
Encouraging youth and involving youth. I wish I would have brought some more little girls' dresses. When I have young people ask, can they model for me? It's like, it's such a huge deal. And it's great that this community has come around the youth.
The fashion show is just one of the major events marking Muscapine First Nations Treaty Day celebrations. Leadership say the event goes a long way in building confidence and a positive mindset for the next generation.
Our staff are talking about body positivity and courage to stand up there and model. And just looking at the kids that are in their gear right now, they're so confident and they're so proud. And that's what we want to teach our kids, is to be confident and proud and give that encouragement that where they need it, because a lot of the youth nowadays, they need that encouragement.
The designers and artists who took part in the fashion show are planning to visit other communities to host similar events.
Now to Vancouver, where APTN's Tina House caught up with an entrepreneur that's created a business that's giving back to the community in a big way.
At this point, I add essential oils to make a beautiful smell in the soap. This is one of our most popular soaps.
Since 2018, Lynn Marie Angus started making soaps, bath bombs, and other products in her basement. Her business orders mostly came in online, and she got creative by utilizing traditional knowledge and incorporating cedar, lavender, sage, and sweetgrass into her products. In 2022, she opened the Sister Sage storefront in East Vancouver. She says she still does a lot of business with online orders, but she's excited to have the opportunity to do in-person sales. However, not only is she a businesswoman, but also an activist with slogans like "Decolonize Your Shower."
Here at Sister Sage, I think we do business a little bit differently, and I like to lead with my activism first and foremost. So that's really about supporting the First Nations, Métis and Inuit struggles, advancing ideally reconciliation.
Sister Sage uses some of the profit to give back to the community by supporting giveaways on Vancouver's downtown east side and giving away backpacks with school supplies to kids from low-income families.
In honor of National Indigenous Peoples Day, we here at Sister Sage created this gift box that will be available for the rest of the month. And it contains a cedar smudge spray, a cedar soap, a bath bomb, and a liquid soap. And we've reduced the cost a little bit, so it's more affordable and it's available online in store.
And these 2 bars of soap have special meaning to her.
So these are 2 of my most special soaps. When I first started making soaps, I wanted to honor my parents, and so I come from the Metis Nations on my dad's side, and this is my West Coast soap. And I really love it because I get to be creative and feel like an artist when I'm working. And then on my mom's side, I'm Korean Métis, and so this powwow soap was to honor her as well.
Sister Sage has won numerous business awards, and Lynn Marie says her goal is to continue to change stereotypes of Indigenous people, 1 bar of soap at a time. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
And on this week's new podcast episode of APTN in Focus, our guest host, online producer, Mark Blackburn speaks with APTN Investigates Angela Bello and Tom Fenario about the season finale, Sacrifice Zones, and where our Journalist of Human Rights fellow got the idea for the episode. Take a listen.
Yeah, the concept actually came from just my experience meeting some youth who were actually doing some contamination projects. So they were looking at PFAS, which are polyfluoroalkyl substances. So they're just contaminants that end up in the environment and end up in fish. And part of that research that they were doing or looking at was microplastics. So it stemmed from there and kind of spiraled into something a lot bigger than I expected.
And the latest episode of APTN in Focus and all of your other APTN news podcasts are available wherever you listen to your podcasts. And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Dennis Ward is back with your evening newscasts in a few hours, including more updates on the Liberal government's controversial Bill C-5 that is expected to pass in the Senate later this afternoon. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho, thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.